I always get this wrong every time when I'm with a mic. I don't know where to hold it. So guys, hello. I am going to make a start because I know I've got a couple people after me. And my name's Boston Freestone. And I just want to say a huge thank you to the IFS team for putting on such an amazing event. Like, this place is awesome. The entire weekend is an amazing time. So I really hope that we all enjoy and soak up as much insight as we can. Also want to thank you guys for coming and sitting down and listening to me today. I know there's other huge names in the fitness industry on right now, so I really do appreciate your time to come and have a discussion and have a listen to what we're going to be talking about. And that is really simplifying fat loss. You know, my endeavor with you today is to provide a unique insight into fat loss. In saying that, with two key topics. We got one, what is fat here to do? And why are we so goddamn good at gaining it? Second, obviously, is how do we reverse it? Fat loss, super simple stuff. I'm an Aussie, 27-year-old Aussie living in Manchester, United Kingdom with my beautiful girlfriend Grace over there. And I love fashion. I love sport. I love travel. But one thing that I love the most is food. Just a quick show of hands, who loves food as well? Yeah, mad. Yeah, mad. And it's kind of like that. It's cool because like some people you'll be like, right, I like food, but it's not really on the priority list. You know, it's kind of below that. I kind of forget to eat. Where other people are like, are you kidding me, bro? I can inhale food. Like, it's something I cannot live without. And obviously that's true, but we have differences between the two. Now, I forgot to mention I'm a professional nutrition and exercise coach for my business, Boston Fitness. And it all came about through somebody I want to introduce you to who actually loves food more than me right now. And that is Little Boston. You see, Little Boston is around the ages of 10 to 12 years old here. His dad's an ex-Michelin star chef, used to cook for the Queen, so food abundance was ridiculous. You could say he had his taste buds developed at such a young age. And because of that, his love for food was a little bit too much. And he struggled with his weight. He struggled with his body confidence. He struggled with the fact that somebody who was sitting right next door to him in math class weighed 35 kilos less than him. But the one thing that he struggled with the most was the fact that he used to eat his problems away. He was emotional. He used to go for food. Now, Little Boston one day was like, you know what? Screw this. I can't live a life like this anymore. I need to do something about it. So he embarked on a huge journey to lose the body fat. But when he was embarking it, he came down to one question. And it was fat loss, yes, but he had to take a step back a bit. He needed to understand the physiology behind fat loss, which is actually really a question of what is fat here to do. Now, fat is obviously here to help lubricate our joints. It helps provide cell architecture to our surfaces of our cell surface. A subcategory of fat is adipose tissue. Now, adipose tissue is there to protect our organs, and it's also there to act as an energy reservoir. Now, why? Back in our ancestral period, if we didn't gorge ourselves when we had food, you know, a mammoth, some tribesmen killed a mammoth, awesome, we got mammoth for the day, right? If we didn't gorge ourselves in that time, if the body didn't have a way to hold calories, we didn't know when that next mammoth would come in. We didn't know. So our food availability back in our ancestral period allowed us to develop this energy storing ability, which is our adipose tissue. Or we wouldn't be here today, pretty much. So obviously, that's what fat is here to do. Now, how do we gain fat? Once food enters the gastrointestinal tract, goes through the bloodstream, which then goes and gets broken down into various molecules. You know, you got your carbs, protein, fats. Super simple stuff. Now, those food molecules that are broken down are absorbed by different tissues of the body. You've got obviously your brain tissue, internal organs, and your skeletal muscle. Now, some of that molecules broken down from food gets then transported into the bloodstream, obviously because we needed it to survive. If we didn't have circulating broken down food molecules in our blood, we would die within the next 15 minutes. So super important. Some of that fat can actually be stored within our skeletal muscle. Although it's a really, really small reservoir of fat, it's possible. We've got a little bit of source, which is kind of cool. You know, I wish it was like a huge dinner. You could wake up the next day and you can eat a lot of food and not have to worry about it because your skeletal muscle has hold all the fat for you. But unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. Because another storing ability when it comes to food is that we can have our carbohydrates go into our liver and our skeletal muscle in the form called glycogen. Now, unfortunately, our skeletal muscles within our fat stores within our skeletal muscles can tap out quite quickly. Likewise with our glycogen. So once both energy stores are tapped out, what happens to that excessive calories eaten? This is where adipose tissue comes in. So adipose tissue's primary job is to do mostly one thing. Take any number of excessive calories eaten, transform it, and turn it into fat. And that's where your fat sits. So obviously we just spoke about what is fat here to do, how do we gain fat, but now why are we so goddamn good at gaining it? And it really does come down to there was no natural selection or evolutionary pressure to how much fat we can gain. I like to use the analogy of fat as like a super welcoming giant corporate hotel. We got guests that want to come into the hotel. Sweet, awesome. We'll make a bed for you, we got room. We'll make a bed for you over there, we got room. More guests want to check into that exact hotel. Yeah, no problem, bro. We're going to build another side over there. We're going to build another side of the building over there. We'll make room, don't worry. More guests want to check into the hotel, and all of a sudden we got this type of resort going on. So there's no stopping to it. We just keeps on building room. So really the question is of fat loss. How do we get the guests to check out the hotel? Now in Australia, we have this saying where it's like, yeah, nah. Have you guys ever heard of it before? No, shaking the heads, no. Never heard of yeah, nah. It's like when you're kind of on the money. It's like you're kind of there, but you're not. It's like when you ask for the waiter for a Coke Zero and they bring you back an actual Coke, and you're like, yeah, it's not really what I wanted, but it's kind of what I wanted. It's like in Australia, it's called yeah, nah. So people normally say, you know, just calories in, calories out. It's not as simple as that, really. So now Little Boston, apologies, essentially how we do lose fat, you know, is we stop sending in guests, or we send in less. But why is that? I hope you're as curious as me and always asking as to why that is. So Little Boston is now between the ages of 14 and 18. He understood that he wanted to lose the fat, and through his endeavors, he understood how to eat clean and train hard. He never tracked a single calorie, didn't follow a meal plan or anything like that. Now, through this, he had a massive transformation, lost 23 kilos at the age of 14. Now, normally that's like awesome, sweet as, bro, you've done well, good. And it is, you know, he was in the peak of his initial transformation when he was younger, 18 years old, doing well at sport, doing well at school, socializing, enjoying his life that he wanted to live. Unfortunately, though, the way in which he lost the weight would actually come in and bite him in the ass in a couple of years' time. You see, Lil Boston ate clean, trained hard, and didn't count a single calorie. He did understand the principles behind portion control and eating clean, but he didn't understand the principles behind fat loss, calories, and macronutrients. He thought it didn't really matter that much. So if we're going to be trying to understand the principles behind fat loss, we do need to take a step back a bit. We need to understand the principles of energy balance. Now, at all three times, we're in three possible energy states. You know, we've got our calorie maintenance, which is when we eat to meet our requirements. We're in a calorie surplus where we eat more than what we require and our body fat kind of gets re-upped. Or we're in a calorie deficit where we eat less than our needs. Now, this is super interesting when we eat less than what we need. Let's say we eat 250 calories less than your maintenance. That 250 calories needs to come from somewhere. So your body goes, right, board meeting. Gather the troops, we're having a chat, we need to talk. Now in the body's body fat loss board meeting, the CEO basically goes, right, nervous system, what are you doing? You got 250 calories to spare? Hell no, bro. I'm running the entire body. There is no way we can give up 250 calories. Yep, okay, cool. We're definitely not giving up 250 calories from the nervous system. Muscular system, what are we doing? You got 250 calories to spare? No way, bro. I'm functioning. I'm doing stuff. Piss off. I don't want anything to do with you. Stomach, liver, kidneys, internal organs. Do you have 250 calories spare to give up? No, we're functioning everything. Go away. Body fat. What are you doing? Just chilling, man. Like nothing. Just happy to be here. Why? What is it? Cool, sweet. Give up. We need your 250 calories. Let's go. So internally, your body as a whole is at a maintenance, right? But your body fat stores are in a severe deficit. And over hours, weeks, days, months, your body fat stores start to wind down. And you're still operating, pretty well. And that's fundamentally, yes, how you lose body fat, by being in a calorie deficit. 250 calories to 750 calories below your maintenance is golden. But why did little Boston think that calories didn't matter? And why do some people today still think that calories don't matter at all? So obviously I've just mentioned, and it should be very clear, that calories are the most important thing when it comes to fat loss, yes. But there are two kinds of people that like to think otherwise. We've got group one, little Boston. Started to eat clean, noticed changes in his body, trained hard, and over time was like, okay, sweet. I'm starting to lose weight, everything's going well. So he goes to the scientific community and goes, all right, explain it. Explain how I was able to lose fat. I didn't track a single calorie. Come on. And it's quite simple, really. The scientific community just goes, yeah, your expenditure went up, your intake went down, and over time that created a net calorie deficit. Now the group two are people who kind of range from, people like Lil Boston, honestly just misinformed, started to release his own YouTube channel, his own digital products, and then all of a sudden then, he did it in an attempt to help others. To actually charlatans who have an idea of what's going on, but don't actually care because, all they care about is the company's profits. So Little Boston would have went down the route of group two if he didn't decide to go to university. And during his initial transformation, it sparked a white hot flame to understand the body more and how we can manipulate it at our will. This led him to complete a Bachelor's of Biomedical Science at a university in Brisbane, Australia, and then a Master's degree in Sport and Exercise Physiology at a university in London. Yes, he wanted to learn more to help more. That was fundamentally one of the reasons why he went into university. But he also acknowledged and understood that knowledge is power. However, what he didn't understand is that knowledge is useless without implementation. You see, he was at the peak of his transformation, thriving at uni, doing well. Then all of a sudden, he realized he started not eating in a way that supports his goals. He started to jump onto dieting trends and fad diets where it was very attractive. It wasn't actually in line with him. Now, because of that, he lost 10 kilos of body weight. He didn't lose 10 kilos of fat mass, he lost 10 kilos of body weight. You see, calories are the king, but the macronutrients are the queen. They matter because they heavily dictate your dieting experience and outcome. So Skinny Boston decided to jump on the vegetarian diet after watching Game Changers on Netflix. Now, people have different opinions about fad diets, and I get that. Everybody has different experiences with food in general, and I totally respect that and get that. I'm speaking now from my experiences and what I encountered during my vegetarian diet. So please do take everything what I say with a grain of salt, because I understand everybody's different. I can only speak from my experiences. So when we're trying to lose body weight, we go back to the board meeting, you know? CEO is like, sweet, okay, we've got to divide the group up now between essentials and non-essentials. You've got your nervous system, internal organs, bones, all the good stuff, yeah? That is your essential side. That's the side, you know, if you were to lie on the couch and do nothing all day, that's essentially what we need to function. The non-essential side is obviously we've got our body fat. Now we've also got our muscular system. So when we're talking about body weight loss, we're talking about reductions in muscle mass, fat mass, and water. But when we talk about fat loss, we're talking about body fat store reduction and also maintaining or building muscle mass. So when we talk about dieting trends, you know, they are very attractive, quick fixes to get to a solution. However, they can be dangerously misunderstood. I'm talking about your modern day anorectics, like, you know, Ozempic, keto, carnivore, and vegetarian. And don't get me wrong, they're all effective for fat loss. Like, they do work. But the realistic sustainment and unintended consequences are not commonly considered at all. In relation to talking about weight loss, I want to kind of discuss modern day anoretic, you know, your Ozempic, which is super popular at the moment. The general term anoretic implies, you know, drugs that make you feel less hungry, and that's how they work. There's an increased popularity at the moment with the general population for weight loss. Most of that weight, however, comes from reductions in muscle loss, which is important for our quality of life and longevity. Muscle mass is very important for our metabolic health, our immune health, our bone density, basically our independence. So when we have reductions in our muscle mass, it's going to affect our quality of life and longevity. Now, I'm not anti-modern anorectics. They do work for some people. Do they work for people who are obese, diabetes, overweight? No, yes, they very much do. Do they work for people who can manage the side effects through with diet and activity? Yeah, you can, definitely. At the same time, however, do they work for everybody? Do they work for Tracy down the road who's just trying to lose some weight to come to Ibiza? No, unfortunately not. Does she know how to manage the side effects of using modern anorectics? No, unfortunately not as well. So in saying that, the attraction of these quick fixes can be very dangerous, if not commonly fully grasped in terms of their negative side effects. So if we're talking about muscle mass, and obviously that's important when we're trying to lose body fat, you know, it's a part of the equation now. We've got body fat loss and we've got muscle mass retention or building. We need to kind of take a step back a bit. We need to talk about how do we maintain or build muscle. Now this comes down to two important processes. We've got muscle protein breakdown and muscle protein synthesis. Now these are constant processes that are turning over all the time. When muscle protein breakdown is greater than muscle protein synthesis, we're in a net negative protein balance. When muscle protein synthesis is greater than muscle protein breakdown, we're in a net positive protein balance. It would be worthwhile for people to understand and to really acknowledge that these are constant processes that are constantly turning over between creation and breakdown to help maintain and or build or lose muscle. They're never fixed. They're never fixed. So as you may know, what we can do with our diet can really influence how much muscle we can maintain and hold. Protein and fat loss. Protein is definitely the most important macronutrient because it helps us maintain and grow our muscle. So around 1 gram of protein per kilogram of body weight will take care of your needs. You know, if your mum's asking you for dieting advice and she wants to lose fat, also build a little bit of muscle, 1 gram a day will probably hit her needs. But what about people who train hard and want to lose fat or build muscle or maintain their muscle? What happens in that situation? A study done by Longland in 2016 wanted to test whether differences of dietary protein intake during a calorie deficit with intense training would affect changes in body composition. So they looked at a sample size of around 40 overweight individuals who were recreationally active for around a 4-week period. What they did was they divided the group up into 2 sections. You've got Group A, people who consumed a lower protein diet, and Group B, people who consumed a higher protein diet in combination with resistance training and high intensity activity. And the results are really interesting. They found that B, the higher protein group, gained 1.2 kilograms of lean body mass and lost 4.8 kilograms of fat mass over the 4-week period. Now, if you guys are coaches, which I believe you may be, that's like a good sales pitch there. That's basically saying, sweet, that's like a 4-week challenge done and dusted. And that's all through dieting in a study, which is super interesting because the lower protein group only gained 0.1 kilograms of muscle, or lean body mass, I should say, and lost 3.5 kilograms of fat mass. Now, what does this mean for us? Consuming around 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day is the real insurance policy type stuff. You know, they're for the people who train hard, they want to lose some body fat, and they're also wanting to maintain or build their muscle. So if muscle mass retention and growth are important when we talk about fat loss, what about meal frequency? There was a study done in 2018 that wanted to find out very similar questions. They wanted to determine an upper limit for per meal protein intake and set guidelines for per meal daily protein requirements for optimizing muscle gain. They concluded that consuming 4 protein-rich meals that were evenly spaced out throughout the day optimizes muscle mass anabolism, or you could just say bigger muscles. So what does this mean for us? Consuming 2 grams, around 2 grams per kilogram of body weight of protein per day with 4 protein-rich meals that are evenly spaced out is what we need to really optimize muscle mass and growth during a fat loss phase. I want to take it to the other end of the spectrum. We've got carnivore. What is it? High protein, moderate fat, low carb. It's a great way to diet, but it doesn't teach you good core eating habits. And this is where fad dieting can be very problematic. You got Bill down the road coming up to me. Boston, I want to lose body weight. I'm going to jump on the carnivore diet. All right, Bill, cool. What are you going to do after that then? I don't know. I'm probably going to be craving pizza. Well, guess what's going to happen after that, Bill? Old fat Bill's going to come back again. That's the problem with fad dieting. It's the lack of those core habits of good eating that fad diets can influence. So when we talk about fat loss, a lot of people like to ask, what is it? High carb, low fat, or high fat, low carb? Which one's the best for fat loss? And a study done in 2021 sought out to compare a very similar question. They wanted to compare between a high fat versus a high carb diet on body composition changes in strength trained males. Now, over a 12-week period, they concluded that changes in body weight, body composition, and circumference were not significantly different between the two groups. So what does that mean? There's a big difference between us talking about optimizing athletic performance and physique and just losing some goddamn fat. So after your calories and protein have been taken care of, and I mean like that's really important, after your protein and calories have been taken care of, it's kind of like a dial. You can dial your carbs up and your fats down, or you can dial your fats up and your carbs down. It's personally and perfectly up to you, based on your preferences. As long as you're hitting the minimum of both, that's very important as well. As long as you're hitting the minimum of both, it doesn't really matter. So Skinny Boston decided to eat in a way that supported his goals, started to implement his knowledge that what he learned from university, started to not be attracted towards dieting trends or fad diets, and successfully gained 21 kilos of both muscle and fat, all from just eating in a way that supports his goals. I want to kind of finish up with you guys with 3 key behaviors that you can do with your clients or with people that you know to help them increase their fat loss success. 1, obviously, like I spoke about previously, muscle mass is important for our quality of life and health, as well as longevity, which is really important. When we're talking about protecting or building muscle mass, meal frequency is very important. So, like I mentioned, muscle mass growth and retention are processes that prefer multiple meals spread evenly throughout the day. And you know, this is a pretty big deal if you're training weights regularly and you want to build or maintain muscle. So any number of protein-rich meals, up to 4 per day, that evenly spread out, marginally increase how much muscle you can gain and maintain. Now, the last 2 are really important. I honestly believe that people fail diets because of hunger. And that's fair. You go into a calorie deficit, you start eating less, you smell a muffin, and you're like, sweet, I'm eating that muffin, I'm hungry. I'm deleting that, that's gone. Now, what we can do when we plan and architect our diet is we can do it in a way that supports us minimizing our hunger so we can adhere to the diet for longer and get better results. So in this sense, we need to look at the palatability of our food. It's been well established amongst the literature that the tastier a food or meal is, the more hungrier you are going to be after you consume that meal. So what does that mean? It essentially comes down to a hypothesis by Stephan Grinette that basically says, and it's called the palatability reward hypothesis, which essentially just implies when food is super tasty, people tend to eat more of it and, you know, they get fat. So how to get around it is we need to opt for foods that are not exotically delicious, you know, your fruits, your veggies, your whole grains, your lean meats. Not go for a ton of sauce and flavor. Now, the second thing we can do to help minimize our hunger during a fat loss phase is we need to consider something called the fullness factor. A study done in 2022 compiled the main factors that influence the satiety efficiency of foods. Their findings showed that protein content significantly affects satiety compared with carbs and fats. Fiber is also highly satiating. So what does that mean for us? We need to opt for foods that keep us fuller for longer. You know, foods with lots of fluid volume, high in fiber and protein, basically because they take longer to digest. And again, it's the same stuff. Going for your fruits, veggies, whole grains, lean meats, healthy fats. They're kind of undefeated in this category. So a good rule of thumb, basically stay close to whole foods and lean protein sources in each meal. Just staying away from super ultra tasty, yummy food just for a little bit. Now, I kind of want to finish my talk with something that's not commonly discussed in the fat loss industry at the moment, or the fitness industry at the moment. And I was recently reading a systematic review that was assessing and trying to identify commonalities between successful weight loss maintainers. Now, these were people that went through a dieting phase and they were able to keep the weight off for around, I think it was 3 years. And when they were trying to find and identify commonalities between these people, you know, things like self-monitoring, cognitive restraint, exercise, eating well, were all picked up. They understood that. But one that stood out to me, which was really fascinating, is that these individuals who lost this amount of weight and kept it off after 3 years, they felt like they needed to develop this sense of new identity. And it kind of makes sense. You know, addicts, people who are, for example, alcoholics, once they get over their addiction and they're trying to get over their addiction, they have to find out new friends, find out new places to hang out, and they need to find a new lifestyle that doesn't evolve around alcohol. And I can 100% resonate with this. I feel like I have lived two lives. I feel like I've got two identities. I've got little Boston and Boston me now. And I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for little Boston. I'm very grateful that I had little Boston. I will forever be very grateful. I wouldn't be able to come here and speak to you guys about fat loss or anything like that if it wasn't for little Boston. Now, I do kill off little Boston every day. I kill off my clone every day through behaviors that foster a better me. Now, I understand some might be like, whoa, bro, that's hardcore. But for me, it's actually far from it. It's actually self-love. And I believe that, you know, spreading your wings, challenging yourself to improve every day is something that you all deserve. So with that, I just want to say thank you very much for listening to my talk. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend, learning everything you can about business and health and fitness. Thank you very much. If you've got any questions also, please feel free. Thank you.